Welcome back to another 52 licks. This time we're going to do a Bill Stewart lick. It's a really hip phrase that's going to involve some stick-on-stick stuff, also some cool kind of buzzy stuff. So before we get into some of his little things that create his sound, which we're going to get to in a minute, let's break down the lick. So the lick itself is a couple of bars long, goes like this. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 1, 2, a little faster. So Bill plays this on a Larry Goldings record. Larry Goldings, Peter Bernstein on guitar, and Bill, they make a great organ trio. They got a whole bunch of records out that they're all killing. Check them out live anytime you can. Bill's sound is an integral part of what they do. And one of the things that I really dig about this is on a track called Puttin' on the Ritz. It's toward the end of his trading, just kind of medium tempo. Sometimes we run out of stuff in the medium tempos. We spend a lot of time getting a bunch of like fast, rudimental kind of stuff together for up tempos, and then somebody calls a tune here, and we're like, okay, so what goes here that doesn't sound hokey, right? So, man, Bill's got tons of great language here. A couple of things that he uses is I think of it as there's a 2-beat version of this phrase, which is right, right, right foot. Stick on stick. That phrase, Max Roach, Philly Joe, Art Taylor, a lot of those guys use that. Well, what Bill Stewart does here is turns it into a 3-beat lick. The other thing that he does, and this also plays a little bit into the snare drum thing he does right before that, is Bill's background is actually, he's got a decent amount of like, funk and soul and New Orleans kind of stuff in his playing. You can actually hear it in his swing feel and also in his phrasing. So some of the eighth notes are a little more even. It's not, maybe a typical bebop version of that phrase would be, but he evens it out a little bit. And I think that's part of what makes his sound unique, part of what makes his sound so cool. The other part of that phrase is this idea of kind of stretching out these buzzes and blurring the lines between triplets and swung eighth notes. So this phrase, it's kind of in between a one pullet, triplet, right? It's almost triplet, triplet. But it's not quite, and toward the end it starts to sound more like 3 and. So if you were going to write this out, it would probably be 1 pull it, 3 and. But he's intentionally kind of moving that stuff around and making it have a little bit more bite to it, a little more interest to it, as opposed to. Instead, it's. So there's a couple of the key elements that we can take from that kind of buzzy thing as part of his sound, and then the stick-on-stick thing, but also a lot of it has to do with how he phrases it in terms of how much it swings or is more even. So the second part of the lick is pretty easy. We'd already talked about, this concept. You can shorten and lengthen that phrase a bunch. He obviously does like the 3-beat version. Stock bebop phrasing there, but he's got, again, his own twist to it. The thing I want to talk about is part of it is the attack he gets on the instrument. We talked about this with that Antonio Sanchez lick where he will, kind of round off his toms. Well, one thing that Bill's doing here, his toms are a little on the high side in terms of tuning, and he's popping them, but it's a fairly low stick height. So it gets this real, clear attack without overplaying the drum. Check out the stick height, but I'm still making sure I'm not. If I keep the stick height and don't increase velocity, it doesn't quite have the same punch. Same stick height, higher velocity. So that's part of his sound. The other thing is that buzz thing he's doing. He could play it, single-handed or alternate hand. It's got a good sound, but it's like beefier than that, right? So what he's really doing is using both hands to do it, but he's not doing them together. At least how I get the sound is I don't do them together. I actually play them as a flam. So for me, I'd play them as right flams like this. But then not just buzz them, but press in a little bit. He also likes to kind of move to the outer edge of the drum for that. So there's just a couple of tips to get a little bit more of that Bill Stewart sound. He gets a lot of cool things out of that snare drum, in particular with those buzzes. So try a few of those techniques, expand the rhythm, obviously, and try that like low stick, high velocity thing. I think that's key to not only his sound, but a lot of his heroes sounds from the bebop era, like Max Roach and all those kind of guys. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you on the next one. Good luck.